All right, and in this explainer, we're diving deep into our, let's face it, complicated relationship with our screens. We're going to look at the deliberate designs that get us hooked, and then explore some really cutting edge solutions that are helping people find a much healthier balance. You know that feeling, right? You just pick up your phone for one quick thing, and suddenly, an hour has vanished. You're still scrolling, wondering where the heck the time went. It feels like this constant battle of willpower. But here's the thing, it's not a fair fight. The game is, well, it's rigged against you. So, to really get why, we've got to look at what's actually happening inside our brains. We're about to explore the neuroscience behind our digital habits, and it all kicks off with one very powerful little chemical: dopamine. And look, this isn't just you having a bad habit. This is a real, recognized psychological thing. Research shows that compulsive social media use lights up the exact same reward pathways in the brain as substance addictions. So that feeling of not being in control, it's not just in your head, it's literally rooted in your brain chemistry. See, our brains are basically wired to build habits using this super simple loop. There's a cue, then an action, and finally, a reward. And social media apps have become absolute masters of this. A notification buzzes on your phone. That's the cue. You instinctively open the app. That's the action. And bam, you get the reward. A new like, a funny video, a message. Every single time that loop completes, the habit just gets stronger and stronger. And let's be clear, this is no accident. This is 100% by design. Apps use these incredibly powerful psychological tricks, like what's called variable reward schedules. You never know when the next little reward is coming, so you just keep checking and checking. It is the exact same principle that makes a slot machine so addictive. Throw in infinite scrolling and that constant chase for social approval, and you've got a system that's perfectly engineered to keep you glued to the screen. Okay, so logically, our first response was to fight fire with fire, right? To fight back with brute force. This led to a whole wave of digital wellness apps that were designed to just lock us out of our biggest distractions. But as a lot of us found out, that usually just made things worse. I mean, the idea made perfect sense on paper. If you can't control yourself, just let an app control you. But what actually happens is something called the rebound effect. We get weirdly creative about finding ways around the block, or we just go on a massive binge the second that timer runs out. So why? Why does this happen? The answer, oh, it's fascinating. It comes down to this really powerful psychological principle. You can think of psychological reactance as our brain's built-in rebel button. Anytime we feel like our freedom is being threatened, even by an app we chose to install ourselves, we get this powerful, innate urge to push back and prove we're still in charge. And this is not some newfangled idea. A theory from way back in 1966 identified this as just a fundamental part of being human. We are literally hardwired to resist being told what to do. And this is exactly why those strict, forceful app blockers just don't work for most people.
Okay, so if building a giant wall doesn't work, what's the alternative? Well, a new approach is starting to emerge, and it's one that actually works with our psychology instead of trying to fight it.
And I absolutely love this metaphor. Instead of a hard stop that just triggers our inner rebel, what if the solution is just a little bit of gentle friction? A pattern interrupt that gives you a split second to think before you act. So here's what that actually looks like in practice. When you hit your time limit on an app, instead of just getting locked out, you see this overlay. It's not a hard no. It's more of a gentle, hey, you sure about that? It gives you options. Close the app, maybe take a breath, or if you really need to, you can still continue after a short delay. It respects that you're the one in charge. And the science behind why this works is just, it's so cool. That little pause forces your brain to shift gears. It breaks you out of system one thinking. That's your fast, automatic, mindless scrolling mode. And it kicks system two into gear. That's your slower, more logical, decision-making brain. And that tiny moment is often all we need to make a much more intentional choice. And of course, the data completely backs this up. A pilot study comparing the old strict blocking method to this new nudge approach found that the results were kind of staggering, especially in two key areas. First up, just look at user retention. It's wild. 90% of users stuck with the nudge-based app for the entire study. Why? Simple. It doesn't feel like a punishment. It feels like a partner. Now compare that to the strict blockers, where a whopping 40% of users had already given up and uninstalled the app by day 3. But this is where the real magic happens. This is what's called the mindful conversion rate. 35% of the time that pause screen popped up, users chose to close the app or do a breathing exercise instead of just mindlessly continuing. It proves that when you give people a meaningful choice, you empower them to make the better one. You know, this whole insight isn't just about one clever app, though. It's actually part of a much bigger, and I think much needed, shift in how we design technology. A move towards a more empathetic and honestly a calmer digital world. I think this quote, it just perfectly captures the spirit of this whole new philosophy. For years, our screens have been designed to be loud, stimulating, demanding. This new movement is asking a totally different question. What if they were designed to be supportive and, well, serene? And it's not just a vibe, right? There are actual specific design principles behind it. Things like these blurred, semi-transparent layers that soften what's in the background, muted, earthy color palettes that don't scream for your attention, and lots of generous white space that just gives everything room to breathe. It's all about creating a kind of visual exhale. This dashboard right here, it's a perfect example. Notice the dark, muted theme, the super clean and simple layout. It's not boring, it is deeply intentional. The goal isn't to grab your attention, it's to present information clearly and calmly, which actually reduces the cognitive load on your brain. Okay, so we've gone through the neuroscience, the psychology, the design. Let's boil it all down. What are the really key things you should walk away with from all this? Okay, first and most important, this is not your fault. Addictive design is real, and it is built to exploit our brain's reward system. Second, fighting it with brute force usually backfires because of our natural need for freedom. Third, those gentle interventions, the speed bumps, are scientifically proven to be way more effective because they give us back our choice. And finally, the good news is this is all part of a hopeful shift towards technology that actually respects our well-being. And I really want to leave you with this one final thought to chew on. What if the whole conversation we've been having is wrong? Maybe the goal isn't to shame ourselves into using our phones less. Maybe the goal is to raise our expectations and to start demanding that the technology we use every single day is designed with a little more empathy and a whole lot more respect for our minds.